Good afternoon and welcome to today's episode of the Happy Head podcast. My name is Paul and I'm your host. And I'm not going to give you all the waffle about you should know me by now and all that kind of thing. We're going to go straight into it. Today I'm joined by the lovely Serena. Good afternoon, Serena. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, I had to be really careful because just before we press record, as you know, I do this kind of preamble with people before we start the podcast. We were talking about all kinds of things. And I had to be really careful that didn't become, the conversation and didn't do the podcast, because it could have gone that way. We were talking about conspiracy theories and time being a human construct and all kinds of things. And then Serena kind of said, I must go and get my book. And we hadn't even recorded yet. So be ready for the book presentation. It's going to appear at some stage in the next half hour or so. So, and also Serena is in London, which is about 70 miles kind of northwest of me, because I'm down in Folkestone in not so sunny Kent. And for some reason, I kind of thought Serena was in the States, because I don't know why. Just whether it's the name, I don't know, but you're not.
Well, my husband's American, and we lived in the States for a period of time, so it could be that.
It could be that. It could be the conversation we had when we were setting up the podcast. Right. Just one of those things. And I do get quite a lot of American guests on the podcast as well. So who knows? So what shall we start today's conversation about then, Serena?
Well, I could start by giving you a little bit of an idea of who I am and what I do and why I do it.
Do that. Yeah.
Why I do it. And then from then on, I think it will flow pretty effortlessly, because it kind of all falls very much, it aligns very much with the spirit of your podcast.
Yeah, go for it.
So I, together with my husband, Eugene, we are co-founders of Wholistic Wellness, which is a coaching company that specializes in bespoke programs for time-pressed female leaders. Between him and I, we have over 20 years of combined experience in various fields of the health and wellness industry. And this has allowed us to develop a proven method to shift you to your most fit, healthy, and confident self within 1 year. We've had the pleasure of transforming the well-being of over 500 professionals across 5 countries, including the USA, including America. And that kind of, that's the foundation of our methodologies. We are personal and professional experience. And the reason why I do what I do, the seed of health and wellness was planted in my consciousness at a really young age, because when I was only 8 years old, my father, who was a very successful business owner and entrepreneur, who created a whole profession that didn't even exist before his time, he got very sick all of a sudden. And I now understand that the issue there was that he simply didn't have the tools in his tool bag to take care of himself, whilst also dealing with the pressure of a very fast growing business and employees. And it was a creative business as well. So the pressure of creativity, and then also, the pressure of growing a young family, etc., etc. And so it crumbled under all of it, causing him to lose everything that he'd worked so hard to build throughout his life. And these events had huge repercussions on his life, of course, but also my life indirectly, and frankly, the life of many people around him. There was really a ripple effect of struggles that kind of reached very far, from his employees to our extended family, to his clients, to his colleagues. And I think unconsciously at that time, I realized something really powerful and really true, which is that our health and well-being really truly is the fundamental foundation and pillar of our entire life, more than we sometimes realize. And when we don't have that, nothing else truly matters. So I started investigating health and wellness. I became very passionate about it, in particular nutrition, given that food and nutrition was an area of challenge for me for many years growing up. And eventually in my adult life, I decided to make this passion into a profession. And that's how I kind of slightly veered into it as a full-time job. And I was lucky enough to meet my husband, who's also my business partner now. And this is like the summarized version of probably quite a longer story, but I just wanted to kind of create the space and the framework for the conversation.
So, when did you start your first business?
Oh gosh. So we started working together with my husband in 2013. So that's almost 10 years ago together. But I was already a certified yoga teacher, so I was already working in the space before. And he had already, by the time I met him, he had already been very successful in creating a fitness training business in the USA. He was running his own fitness training business for more than 10 years by the time I met him. So yeah, it's been a while. We've been at it for a little while by now.
The reason I asked that question is that your dad's an entrepreneur, and the following question was, do you believe that entrepreneurs are born rather than made?
I believe that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I believe that not everyone is suited to the nature of that job and that career path. So I think there is an element of personal predisposition that then needs to be nurtured. So I had the gene in me for sure, although I fought it for very many years because I associated entrepreneurship with pain and suffering because of my dad's story. So for many years I just thought that, oh, I can't do it because I'm gonna end up sick like my dad did. And so I kind of went against my nature for some years and went the safe route of full-time employment. But if you have that gene in you, it's very hard to suppress. I think it's bound to sprout out in one way or another. But then I still had to nurture, learn, and unlearn. That was probably even more so. Undo and in order to be able to get to where I am today. So there's a bit of both involved, but I think you definitely need that natural predisposition and inclination.
Yeah, I agree. It's like going into medicine. You have to have a certain desire or want or need to do something like medicine, because it takes an awful long time to get qualified as a nurse or as a doctor. And as an entrepreneur, it takes an awful long time to become successful as an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur tomorrow, but it may take you 5, 10, 15, 20 years to actually be financially successful as an entrepreneur. And there's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think the nature of the business, the nature of how you lead your life, and the nature of the pressures that you're under, the nature of the challenges that you have to face are so very unique and so very different from traditional employment or for anything that we're taught in school, quite frankly. So even just from traditional education, schools are set up to teach you how to be a great employee, but they're not set up to teach you how to be a great entrepreneur. That you need to take a whole different path and own that path and be not your own teacher in many ways, but then also look for the right guidance and the right expertise. But it falls really much outside the realm of the traditional trajectory that we are incentivized to go on from a young age. So that's why you kind of really have to have that drive in you. And it's easier these days, of course, than it was back in the days, but it's still a unique path.
I guess it's easier to get started today, but it's just as hard to be successful today as it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, even when your dad started,
Yeah, for sure. That's very unique. I mean, yes, of course, technology has made certain things easier, but at the very fundamental level, it's very much a path that has a lot to do with self-development. It's deeply intertwined with you taking ownership of your own self-development, because you're the business now. So the business is literally an extension of who you are as an individual. and it will continue to grow and develop and evolve as you continue to grow, develop, and evolve. So, or at least that's how that's my experience of it. So you kind of have to put yourself at issue there 24/7 in order for the business part to be successful.
Given what happened to your dad, did your family encourage you or discourage you from going your own way, as in starting your own business?
That's such a great question that not many people ask me, actually. Um, so it was a bit of a mixed bag. Of course, there were some people that, and even within the same people, there were like moments where they were concerned, because they wanted me to go the safe route, and many people in my family have that same association. Working for yourself is so stressful that you're going to end up, breaking down. So I faced a bit of both. However, I must say, they were never unsupportive. They were voicing certain concerns and being vocal about it, and they wanted me to take them into account. But I didn't have many people come to me and say, "You're crazy. You absolutely should not do that." They just wanted me to take into account, the risks of that trajectory. But the moment I then decided, and I decided in a way that was actually quite drastic at the very beginning of it all, the people that mattered most to me had my back and were supportive of me in spite of it all. And I think that's something that I feel very blessed for. And by the way, I feel compelled to also mention that as I continued to heal from the traumas of my childhood in dealing with my dad's issues, I started to realize that he wasn't my only example of entrepreneurship, because both his brothers are business owners and incredible entrepreneurs. And both of them are very hard workers and have achieved incredible things, and neither of them is ill in any way. And actually, they are very healthy examples of the fact that it doesn't have to be the way it was for my dad. They run very different businesses from what my dad did, but like I said, the gene is there, and it manifested itself in a healthy way as well. And the moment I started to recognize that and see that kind of filled me with confidence and reassured me in many ways.
You just mentioned there, Serena, that you were kind of asked to take into account certain measures when you took up your business, but then you quite kind of quietly said, "I did things in a very drastic way." So does that mean you kind of ignored the warnings and just threw yourself in?
Yes and no. So I did throw myself in, but I had a safety net. So I actually did take those considerations to heart in more than one way, but not in all ways. So I had a safety net. I had savings in the bank. I knew that I had a plan B in case things didn't work out. I had already established myself in a traditional way for 10 years. And that created the framework whereby I was very confident that I gave myself a timeline. So I did it I did it the drastic way, but I was still very sensible of how I went about it, So there was an element of both. There was an element of let's do it, and there was also an element of I'm not going to end up on the streets anytime soon, ever, in fact, because I'm setting myself up in such a way that that's not even going to be a possible scenario.
So with your first business, did you kind of start it off as a sideline, a side hustle?
Correct. That's precisely what I did. The way that the kind of the starting point for me was yoga. I got introduced to yoga in 2005, I want to say, no, 2007, I believe. And yoga was, out of all the practice, I was already, a fitness enthusiast, and I was already very heavily into nutrition and studying and researching, etc., all as a hobby, or as a personal kind of interests. And then yoga became such a powerful tool that gave me access to just a whole different realm of experiencing myself, my body, my mind, my spirit, my health and well-being. And it was the first thing that I felt that I wanted to pass on to others. And I had that realization immediately after my first few classes. But it was for very many years, it was a little bit of a dream. You know, when you say, oh, if I win the lottery, I quit my job, I become a yoga teacher, and I open my own studio so that I can delve myself to what I'm truly passionate about. You know, that was the rationale behind it. And it was so for many years, well, I'd say 3 or 4 years, until one day, and don't ask me why that changed or how, there was like a click in my head, and I was like, why do I have to wait to win the lottery to do what I love? Like, why can't I just figure out a way to make it happen? And it went from being a dream that maybe one day I will pursue to a plan of action. This is how I'm actually gonna make this happen, you know? So I pulled pen and paper out. Again, very sensible. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna give myself a year. I'm gonna save up money for my tuition. I'm gonna keep my job and just take a kind of a short hiatus so that I can qualify, just some unpaid leave from work. And I was trying to keep everything in the right place and keep everything together and do it the sensible way. And then I was like, and then I'll come back to my job and I'll teach part-time until I feel that I've built up my expertise and et cetera, and that I have enough experience to maybe pursue it more full time. I was being very sensible about pursuing this dream of mine, but the moment I made that decision, my life as I knew it started to crumble apart.
What happened?
So my partner at the time was very unsupportive of this choice of mine. We were living together. We were, gonna get married. We owned an apartment together. It was a very serious relationship. But that was the first crack. He was like, for some reason, he couldn't really give me a rational explanation, but it was something that really started putting a deep dent into our relationship. And so I realized within the year that this relationship was not going to survive. Now that meant that I had to sell my share of our house together. And all of a sudden I didn't have a relationship and I didn't have a place to live anymore. And at the same time, I was trying to keep my job and just take a short break from work in order to qualify as a teacher. Well, my employer, for whatever reason, said, even though it was a relatively short break, and I was asking for it to be unpaid. I was prepared to, I just wanted to be able to have a job to come back to.
Sure.
And they said, sadly, they couldn't offer that to me because they then would make themselves liable for offering the same thing to others, and they couldn't do so. So then the job was gone too, And through all this, I could have easily said, you know what, no, this is too much. I'm going to stay put. I want to keep my relationship. I want to keep my house. I want to keep my job. But that was not even an option in my mind for whatever reason. I had to do this. I just had to follow through with it, come what may. And that's what kind of made things a little more drastic than I had intended them to be. And looking back now, it's been over 10 years now, really, since it all started happening. I'm forever grateful for all of that, because it kind of created a bit of a clean slate from where even greater things that I could have imagined became possible. That wouldn't have been possible if I was still holding on to even just one of those things from the past.
So did you get another job? Did you do your training, then get another job?
No, I decided that actually I was going to take a year off my previous career altogether. Now I had a little bit of money in the bank, not just from my savings, but from selling my share of the apartment to my ex. And so I was like, oh, you know what? I might as well go. Since I don't have a job, I don't have a relationship, I don't have a house anymore, I'm going to do my training, which is a 3 months intensive training in the US. That's how I ended up in the US. And after that, I'll just devote myself to yoga as a traveling teacher. I'm going to travel the world, teach yoga for a full year. I have enough money to last me a full year. And then after that, I will come back to London and I will rebuild from wherever I'm at, knowing that I could have easily found a job in my previous field because I had 10 plus years of experience at a high level. So I decided to take this year break. And I was just it was a very eat, pray, love moment in my life. I was just gonna be this single gal on my own, traveling the world, teaching yoga, delving myself to this passion. And the first city I stopped at of this 1 year trip, the first town, the first yoga class, the first studio that I entered, the first teacher I met was my now husband, Eugene, who stopped me on my tracks pretty early on. And that was the beginning of what we've built together, essentially.
So we did the training, done the year, found Eugene. Did we go into a job? Or did we kind of then start?
Yeah, what happened was I had planned half of my year off. I had planned this trip where I met Eugene in Texas, United States. And then I had also already planned 6 months in New Zealand teaching as a yoga teacher there. So when I met Eugene in the States, I already knew that I would have had to leave after a few months because I had already committed to this, what at the time was going to be 3 months, ended up being 6 months in New Zealand to help out this studio owner who was pregnant and wanted to take some maternity leave. And so we spent 3 months together, fell in love, and then I left for New Zealand for 3 months, which ended up being 6 months. Because I was not looking for a serious relationship. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't jump into something too soon. So in some respect, when we both, because he had his own things that he was kind of sorting out. And so we decided that these 6 months were going to be like the test that this young relationship needed to pass in order to see if it really was what it felt it could be. So I actually went and taught yoga for 6 months in New Zealand, and then the relationship passed the test with flying colors. And I decided to go back to the States, and that's when me and Eugene got married, started working together, and started kind of founded our business.
So the dream of becoming a yoga instructor in your own studio kind of took a roundabout route, because you didn't actually although you did the training, you did the work, but you never actually got to be the yoga teacher. You went into something completely different.
Yeah, well, I was yoga. We both, myself and my husband, are both certified yoga teachers. And
is that part of your business at the moment?
That is a fundamental part of our business.
Okay.
What we ended up never doing was to open our own studio, which to begin with became a joint dream of ours. I was like, okay, actually, we're both incredibly passionate, and we both believe in the power of this practice so much, and we contemplated the possibility of opening a studio, and that became our dream for quite some years. What happened was that I had a couple of experiences managing yoga studios. I was a yoga studio manager for some time in the US, and then I was a studio manager here in London as well when we first moved back from the States, with the intention of really getting to grips with it so that we could then have our own. And that's when we both realized that perhaps that was not the most effective avenue for us to be able to have the greatest impact and really give the greatest amount of value to our shifters, as we call our clients now. Because by then I had also certified as a plant-based nutrition consultant. My husband, who was a fitness trainer with many years experience, had also certified as a physiotherapy aide and therapeutic masseuse. And so we wanted to give more than just yoga to our shifters, because we both believed that actually in order to achieve your greatest level of health, fitness, well-being, confidence, you need to have a very comprehensive approach. It takes more than just one thing. It's a 360 bespoke approach. We wanted to bring all of these modalities together in a way that was the most effective possible. And we realized that actually a yoga studio was not the most effective vehicle for that. And that's why we went a different route with Whole Shift Wellness. And we're very grateful that we did. Actually, it's turning out to be even more effective than we'd imagined, frankly.
So how does your business work? What is it? What is the way that you help your clients? So you just imagine that I'm a client, I've found you online. How would you work with me?
So at the moment, we have two modalities, two avenues. We have our core shifts, which are designed for anybody in and around the London area, because they are one-on-one in-person programs where you do personal training with Eugene at your home. You do coaching with me, we deliver your meals, we create your plans, we really it's really hands-on. You get therapeutic massage, you're catered from all angles. And it's of course a higher ticket value service, but it includes everything you need and more to really make the shift. And that's one avenue. We also have what we call our international shifts, which are the shifts that we are able to deliver to our client base in the US or anybody anywhere in the world, frankly. And those are still one-on-one, but of course, they're all delivered remotely. So the training happens remotely, the coaching happens remotely, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, we have our latest creation, which is called our ultimate shift for female leaders. And that is a combination of our digital programs as well as our international shifts, but they are delivered in a group format. So you actually also have access to a community. You have access to an accountability group, not just myself and Eugene one-on-one, which you still have access to, but you also have an accountability group with ladies who have same interests and same inclinations, same challenges and goals. And so that's also another very exciting way of getting immense value from our methodology.
Tell me about the book and how it came about.
Make the shift. Here, I'll give you the
No, the other one.
Not this book?
Yes, I'm joking. Make the shift.
Yeah. Make the shift. So make the shift is essentially our entire methodology distilled into one tool that anybody in the world can access right now at a very affordable price point to start making real changes that will bring forth new results right now. I view it as it's not just a theory book. I like to call it a practice book. I always say this because if you open it, it's a solid 40% of it is actually exercises. It's actually practical pen to paper exercises, which are designed to start creating a shift, so that you can start actually do things differently the moment you pick it up. And it became obvious to us that we wanted something that people could access immediately and that we could share. There is no limit to how many people can have a copy of my book, and so we decided to just put it all in there, no holds barred. And so our entire methodology is in the book, and the exercises that are in there are designed to start shifting you in the right direction right away.
So what's the next stage? What's next for you and your husband and your business? Where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time, for example?
Yeah, so the ultimate shift is really where it's at for us right now. Our one-on-one work is something that is incredibly rewarding for us, but there's only so many people we can service on a one-on-one basis, where the capacity, given how extensive and how comprehensive the shift is, we have to limit our capacity. It's because we want to exceed your expectations. So that's the premise of our work, is to exceed your expectations. So this ultimate shift that we've created is really the most exciting tool that we've ever, that's why we've called it ultimate, because it really has everything that you need and more, and it leverages the power of community. I did 60 interviews of female leaders, and that's what made it obvious what we needed to create was answering the answer to their questions, made it obvious that community is key. And so it's the thing that we're most excited about. We actually only just recently launched it, and it's where we're putting our hearts and soul into it. And the way that we've created, actually, which makes it very exciting for us, is it ties in with our yearly luxury retreats in Italy. We run these wellness retreats in Sicily, where I'm from. And so, because we also believe in relationships and the importance of meeting people one-on-one, we don't think that digital is ever going to replace in-person engagements. The two are going to complement each other. So whoever joins us on the ultimate shift also receives a unique and exclusive invitation to our retreats, which are also quite limited, at an exclusive price, so that then at the end of the year, there's also a coming together of these ladies in person in that beautiful setting to celebrate all of their accomplishments. So it's not just an impersonal online tool with like bots and out of touch kind of approaches. It's very, very personal and personable, and there's also always going to be an opportunity to come together in person. So it's making the best of both worlds, essentially.
Where can people find out more, Serena?
wholeshiftwellness.com. That's our website, and also I'm very active on what I perceive to be the three main social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And the handle is @wholeshiftwellness for Facebook and Instagram. So those are the easiest places to go to find us.
I'll put the links in the show notes. Listen, thank you for your time today, Serena. Any final thoughts before we end today's episode?
I guess the thing that I'm always compelled to end on, the note that I'm always compelled to end on is that truly, now more than ever, given everything that we've been through in the past year, we've become present with how important our health and well-being is. And it's the foundation of our entire society, frankly. I mean, we've seen what a mess it is when it gets threatened. It affects everything and everyone. So my message to you is there's no better time to get started right now. So do something today, before the end of the day, just do something new. I identify the area with most room for improvement for you and take action right now. Start building new momentum. Honestly, truly, any investment into your health and well-being will pay greater dividends than you can imagine. And the ripple effect of positive change will filter through your entire life.
And before we go, flash the book one more time, because we've got some... Listen, guys and girls, thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. This is Paul signing off. Bye now.